I've coached in 5 different unique coaching styles. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the most successful coaching style that I've uncovered. What if I could cut through 24 years of tennis coaching experience, over 36,000 hours, and give you the most successful coaching strategy that I've ever had? And here's the secret. It wasn't the coaching style that I was taught in my coach education. Coaching style number 1. Let's go back to 2002. I started coaching pretty much how I was taught. Isolated practice, basket feeding, demonstrations, and progressions. This style of coaching is still very dominant today, a whole 24 years later. But what I found with basket drilling was players got bored pretty quick. No one enjoys lining up in queues. But we also strip away what makes tennis so unique. Tennis is a dynamic and open sport. Basket drilling is high repetition, the same ball over and over again, and my players would switch off pretty quick. I would feed backhand after backhand, only for the player to forget their backhand when it mattered the most, in a match. It didn't take me very long to realise that basket feeding wasn't very successful. The gap between an isolated practice and the match court was just far too big. In 2005, when I conducted my level 4 performance award, I became obsessed with biomechanics. Because I was now coaching in a quote-unquote performance world, I believed that I needed better biomechanical and technical knowledge. Now I'm going to be working with good players, county, regional, national level players. I needed to fully understand the ins and outs of biomechanics. I became obsessed with grips, stances, angle of separation, shoulder over shoulder rotation, and most of my sessions became a deep dive into technical prowess. But what I discovered pretty quick, that players are not robots. They couldn't just repeat actions that I either showed them or explicitly told them. Again, I would isolate practices and get the players to practice the perfect technique or the proper form, and the player would get some success replicating it because I would strip everything away and give them the perfect ball. But once again, when we put it back into a dynamic situation, the perfect ball toss disappeared. That 90-degree elbow bend on the serve also disappeared. This led me to believe that there was a gap within my coaching. I was very good and very knowledgeable about biomechanics, but the players couldn't transfer it into match practice. And that led me on to number 3, game-based coaching. Game-based coaching is very simple. You set up a game with some conditions and the players will practice their tactics within the game. The idea is the players will then combine the technical and tactical skills within a game. The first half of the session would be isolated biomechanical technical work, developing the fundamentals, and then I'll try and slowly transfer it into a game situation. But I still ran into the same problem. The skill that we learned in isolation just didn't transfer into a match. I'd become more and more frustrated when I would travel to tournaments with players and see weeks and weeks and weeks of hard work just disappear. That perfect technique that we drilled so much in sessions once again didn't transfer into the match court. Looking back now in 2025, even when I used game-based approach, it was still tailored to working on perfect form or perfect technique. And that brings me on to coaching style number 4, high repetition. We've got the biomechanical principles or fundamentals. They're really important. We just need more repetition. And that's when I started to look into some of the science around human movement and human learning, the 3 stages of learning. And a lot of my research back then was all about high repetition. If you repeat something over and over again, you will develop muscle memory. It becomes autonomous. So my tennis coaching changed once again. It became high volume. And at this time, I was also working with some very talented players. A lot of high performance training was high repetition. Can you make 50 shots cross court? With the idea that high repetition leads to automatic behavior. But what I found with this style of coaching was not only did it not transfer, but it bored the life out of my players. I believed that I was doing the right thing for my players, but I would also make lots of excuses. So when the skill didn't transfer, my answer was really simple. We just need more reps. And this all came to a head in 2019. I was burnt out, I was fed up. My players were not progressing. I was getting grief from parents. I was getting grief from national governing bodies. And to be honest, I was going to walk away from coaching. And in 2019, the world changed. I had a lot of free time on my hand. I'm pretty sure you did too. I signed up for the online psychology course. And I'm not going to lie, the psychology course was absolutely rubbish. But through my research, I stumbled across a presentation by Richard Shuttleworth. And he was talking about a coaching methodology called constraint-led approach. That presentation turned my life, turned my career around. And that brings me on to number 5, ecological dynamics. When I discovered ecological dynamics, it made sense to me. Players learn via play. Coaches don't instruct, we guide. Ecological dynamics is the perfect recipe for tennis. The word dynamic represents what tennis is. Ecological is all about understanding and using information from the world around you. And tennis is all about perception and action. Once I started going down the ecological rabbit hole, my whole life changed, my career changed, my players changed. I was no longer worried about perfect technique. The players just self-discovered their own movement solutions, their own technique, via manipulation of practice designs that I created. This is not a deep dive into ecological dynamics, but all I had to do as a tennis coach was just make very small tweaks to my traditional drills and make them more representative, make them look and feel more like tennis. No longer were my players serving in isolation, they were serving with a returner. No longer was I basket drilling, we were sending the ball backwards and forwards in a competitive rally. What I found was not only did my players enjoy the sessions more, my retention numbers went up, but skill started to transfer more into matches. Players became more competitive and started to win more matches. If you'd like to see how I use ecological dynamics, check out the link to my online course down below. Real life players, real life problems, but also real life solutions as well. And what's great about ecological dynamics, I didn't have to make major changes to how I coach. It's been one hell of a journey over the past 24 years. Hopefully it won't take you over 18 years to discover ecological dynamics. If you'd like to listen to 20 more lessons from my 24 years of tennis coaching, check out the video on the screen now.